What's going on, Barker?
Yo, it's playback in this
Welcome
beer.
to Playback Appeal.
Yeah, ho.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Oh
Today,
shit. Oh, this is L.A. Sean. This is
I'm trying to be Houston.
this is
I'm trying to
Inglewood
be
Sean.
Houston right now, man.
Oh, okay, sure.
We're doing our best right now because today we got an album that we're reviewing.
Howdy, y'all. That's Texas.
Howdy,
Hello.
y'all. We're
Howdy,
doing
y'all.
we're doing Houston's very own Big Moe.
Big Moe. You heard Drake say his name in some song that he did back in 2011. You know who it is. Screwed up click in this bitch, man. Big Moe.
Screwed Up Clicks, Big Moe, Rec Shop Records, released on July 18. The year was 2000, released exactly 20 years ago. And we're doing this because we are the Rap Geeks, and we got to find these gems for y'all. We got to find these gems that were very influential at the time and maybe don't have so much respect now. And that's why we do this.
I
Big
do think the rap culture in Houston is strong. It's almost very similar to the Bay Area. And before we get into this discussion, and I know we can get into this for a long time. I just want to know what were your first thoughts into coming listening to this album.
Hey, let's not even get into that. Let's start off with this, man. Let's just start off with this. For people that don't know Big Mo, you don't know Houston because this was Big Mo's debut album released in 2000. This guy was part of the Screwed Up team, the Screwed Up gang. What do
Click.
you call it? The Screwed Up
The
clique.
click.
The
Yep.
Screwed Up clique. And if you don't know the Screwed Up clique was the clique associated with the legendary DJ Screw. And if you don't know who DJ Screw is, that is literally one of the guys who's had arguably the biggest influence in hip hop production for the
Hmm.
last 20 years, despite the fact that he's unaccredited with that a lot of the times. And let me give you my argument. He invented the idea of the chopped and screwed. He also promoted promethazine with codeine cough syrup to be the official drug of rappers overdosing around the world. That is the influence of DJ Screw. So next time you listen to ASAP Rocky, next time you listen to Travis Scott, you got to know that it was the Screwed Up clique that is the reason today why your favorite rapper died.
Oh goodness gracious. That's where we're going? Is
We're
this how we're
going there,
potting
man.
today?
This is how we're starting. And just to give you guys an idea, how many people have died in the Screwed Up clique? We can read you a list of names of people that have literally died from codeine overdose. 3-2, BG Gator, Big Hawk, Big Floyd, Big Mello, Big Mo, Big Steve, That Boy Grace, DJ Screw, Fat Pat. And the
Hey,
ones that
what's
are
the
still
source?
alive, Wikipedia. And the ones that are still alive, you might know Lil Flip, Lil Keek,
Yeah,
Big Poke,
all the Lils left over. They're
ESG,
definitely
Zero, Try the Truth. You might
Trey.
have Trey the Truth. You might have heard these guys if you were around and you were listening to the likes of Paul Wall, if you were listening to the likes of Mike Jones, if you were listening
Who?
Mike Jones,
Who?
Mike Jones,
Go ahead.
and if you were listening to name some other Houston rappers.
Kirko. Bangs. I came down. Hold
Uh,
up. Hold up. That screw shit. The end of
it
that
is that
song.
screw shit,
Screw.
man.
Screw is I mean, you have a great point. I mean, Dave Chappelle said it like this, man. Bill Cosby. He rapes, but he saves lives, man. And I'm sure a lot of people would say without this screwed up music that inspired a lot of criminals to, to go good. You know what I mean?
I
They
mean,
saved some
the
lives.
list goes on as far as who's from Houston. I mean, UGK, Slim Thug, Scarface, Riff Raff, Mike Jones,
Well, so
Maxo Cream,
what's your point here?
Ghetto Boys. This is what I'm saying, man. This is what I'm saying. Houston might be the place that has had the most influence on hip hop in the last 20 years and unaccreditedly.
I unaccredited? No.
Unaccredited.
Lies.
Unaccredited. Because Atlanta gets all the credit. Well, okay, think about the South, man. Atlanta gets the credit. Houston doesn't, and by God, Memphis really doesn't. And Miami gets even more credit than
So
Houston right now.
the last people that was, if we're specifically talking about the style of screwing and chopping,
Right.
right? That's not being done anymore.
Oh,
Like
that
that
is,
was
but that's
ASAP.
already huge. I mean, that's already
The
ingrained.
the only
You
thing, so
listen
here's
to
the only
Travis
thing.
Scott, they're still doing that. You listen to Kanye West, that's still being done. Every rapper, even Drake himself, has done the chopped and screwed.
But those guys have accredited screw. If you listen to their music through their whole catalog, then you'll see it. Solange, her last album, for sure was a screw head nod in her own style. So yeah, the influence is there, but I really feel like people are really he's really getting the credit. Now monetarily, we that's another conversation and I might agree with you on that point monetarily. How the fuck can you trace the influence? How do you trace influence, right? That's what blockchain's supposed to do. Maybe we can do that in the future. Trace the influence of what a music sounds like. But that's some futuristic shit. That's the other podcast. But yeah, like I think people really do give him his credit, and
Right, but what
maybe it
about the city of Houston?
go on. I don't know. I haven't.
You don't know? I think that guys like UGK, even Paul Wall, even Mike Jones, even Slim Thugs, now Travis Scott, who's maybe at the top of the game. I think Houston for a long time, no one thinks of Houston as the hip hop, as a
Mm,
viable hip hop capital. But
right.
but and I understand why,
Mm,
because maybe their biggest rapper aside from Travis Scott right now is what? Sauce Walka. So I get it. But in terms of history, they were instrumental and vital. And Big Mo, just think about this right now. We're about to do a retrospective on Big Mo, who is one of Houston's legends. If we go to Houston and we drop Big Mo, that's like going to San Francisco and there's even more respect in saying Big Mo in Houston than Andre Nicotina in San Francisco. There's even more respect on that than going to LA and saying, who's the fucking guy who does
are you-
sugar free.
oh, sugar free.
Even more respect in Houston by saying Big Mo than going to LA and Pomona and saying sugar free. That's how much respect Big Mo has in the game, but nobody outside of Houston or Texas even knows who this dude is.
Right, and that point is right. Okay, I agree with you here, and I think I understand what you're saying. So let me get this straight. You're saying that the way we revere Atlanta right now, Houston never got his chance. I don't know if you're saying that right now we should revere Houston in that same way. But they haven't had their moment of being at the top of the hill.
I've you see, it's like this, man. I've never seen people wearing Houston Astro hats the way I see them wear Atlanta Braves hats.
Mhm.
I
That's for a
haven't.
lot of reasons, though. A lot of people use the goddamn the A for all kinds of things.
Yeah, you might be right. That might be a gang reason.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, man. No one, people never. I never hear people say, "I love me some Texas hip hop." They say, "I love me some Texan barbecue." They
Right.
say, "I love me some Texan football." But I
Yeah.
never hear anybody ever in hip hop ever say Texas. they'll say LA, they'll say Atlanta, they'll even say Chicago. And I would argue Chicago has never had the type of influence on hip hop that Houston did.
Right, and while at the same time they're listening to like Travis.
Right. At the same time, they're listening to Travis, who by now you would understand that what Travis is doing with his record label is bringing Houston talent onto the scene.
You're exactly right with that, man. I'll take that. I thinking about it now, yeah, nobody ever brings up Houston. And I've never traveled to the South, right? So maybe that's different. Maybe on the coastal cities, we're not talking about Houston for whatever reason, but we are talking about Atlanta. Not sure what it is though.
I don't know either, but that's why we're here. And that's why today we're going to talk about City of Syrup by Big Mo.
And hey, there we go. And we're back,
And
ladies
we
and
are back,
gentlemen.
ladies and gentlemen. We had to do this little thank you to Houston.
Oh yeah,
Houston,
shut up.
H
H
Town,
time.
Houston,
Shout out
Atlanta,
Johnny
Vegas.
Dang.
Houston, Atlanta. When Drake recorded Houston, Atlanta, Vegas, what he didn't say Lassa, Atlanta, Houston. He said Houston, Atlanta, Vegas.
Imagine all the combinations Drake was trying to figure out.
Atlanta, Vegas, Houston. He said
No, no, no,
Houston,
no, no.
Atlanta, Vegas.
Shh,
So
he erases it.
all right, we got to get onto this, man.
All right.
Anyways, you asked me what my first thoughts on the album were, and I'll say
Yes,
this.
sir.
Let's start off with the album cover. I feel like this needs to be discussed right now. This album cover, if you're looking at it, if you're looking at City of Syrup by Big Mo, it literally is Big Mo wearing a shiny chain with a big styrofoam cup pouring lean or purple smoke onto the skyline of Houston. And it says City of Syrup and Big Mo in some fat gangsta type font. And it says the first major independent record label, Rec Shop Records, presents Bar Baby of the Screwed Up Click, Big Mo. This album cover, when I saw it, this is the first thing I thought, man. I was like, this looks like a early 90s album cover, and this dude is doing it in 2000. So there's there's almost a level of nostalgia associated with the album cover. Would you agree?
There is, but part of me also feels like he might have wrote all these songs in the 90s, 98, you know what I mean? The late 90s and so this the majority of this album for sure was made probably 98, 99.
But a lot of modern, like when I think of a Raider Clan, like a Denzel Curry album cover, they all kind of have this type of font going on. They all have this kind of style.
Hmm. To me, and let me just fact check myself. And it kind of reminds me, the aesthetic itself reminds me of old No Limit album covers, but the font, I guess it is different depending on the artist, but the style for sure is hella nostalgic to 90s designs on album covers.
Right, even like early 90s designs and like cheap ones. So
Yeah.
that is cool. I love the album cover because of just how ridiculous it is, and it really pops out. So as far as the music itself, when I was hearing this, man, I almost thought that this was my first initial reaction. Big Mo is the Nate Dogg of Houston.
Oh, dude, I had the same thought.
Really,
Yeah, exact same shit.
he's the
I
he's the Nate Dogg of Houston.
Yeah. It's just a I don't know what it is. There's something about this that style. I think about the way we used to rock it in the cafeteria, like being, you know what I mean, as kids when we were freestyling and singing and shit. Like the older cats would do stuff like that growing up, and they'd be singing and beating drums on the table, and so like um, there's something about that style, and there is so many parallels between West Coast music and Houston, Texas, based on this album. Based on this album, um, they're they're like cousins, and I can talk about that later. But that's what I'm thinking. There's some kind of relationship between um, the Houston sound that Big Mo had in this album and the West Coast style at the time. Nate Dogg and DPG. They were kind of big in the 2000s as well. So it's crazy. There's a lot of parallels.
So my thoughts, my assertion as to why Big Mo was the Nate Dogg of Texas is simply because both of them exemplify that they're able to harmonize very well while rapping. And you know what? It's almost as if Big Mo was maybe one of the first, I don't want to say prominent because he wasn't prominent, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was really one of the first cats who was able to sing and rap and do it at the same time. So this dude does what I would call sing rapping because he's harmonizing every single time he's rapping. But it's not like he can't rap either. He definitely can. But he's not exceptional at either singing or rapping, and we see this today with the likes of another Houston cat. Who am I talking about? Who am I talking about?
Wow,
Who am
no
I talking
clue.
about?
If they're new right now.
I'm talking about Cactus Jack. Tell me.
Oh, Don Tolliver.
Don Tolliver. Don Tolliver from Cactus Jack Records is maybe the modern version of Big Mo
Wow, 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 wow.
because they do the exact same thing. They're
Sure,
sing rappers.
sure. Yeah, the style you could there's I'm sure you can make all those connections. The stylistically though, Don Tolliver is on some other shit. His voice is almost on the opposite side of Big Mo.
Right.
Y- Um but the way they were able they used their voices in the best way that they could. And especially the styles at the time, the way Big Mo was singing, he was singing like R&B cats. He was hitting R&B cat riffs like some shit like that, like in his voice. And so he actually had some vocals on him, but not the best. The rapping, I like this rapping just because his voice is so powerful. Um, I'd probably give him a little more credit for his rapping.
Yeah, maybe the singing style almost sounds like prison singing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant as well. Same shit, and that's what who's doing shit like that. Oh, I just missed this concert because of COVID. Brent Faiyaz. He does like I think a lot of his music is like prison yard singing, cafeteria singing, banging on the tables style stuff.
Yep. Yep. I would agree with you there. And
Not a lot of
so
cats like that.
no, exactly. And I think that's what Big Mo brought to the table, man, is that
Yeah.
ability to be a harmonizing cat and also rap and also be smooth and also be gangsta at the
Oh yeah.
same time. He's keeping it Texas. So that's something I really appreciate about him. I won't lie, this album as I'm going through it, man, ton of filler. I would never even recommend anyone to go through the entire album. I mean, you got to be a real hip hop historian to want to go through this whole entire thing unless you got the cassette. If you got the cassette, bang that in your 93 Beamer, bro. For sure. But as far as the songs that stick out, we can both agree that there was a song in particular that for some reason is on the album and considered one of maybe the only song that had a music video on the whole album was one called Man. And this is what we kind of came to the conclusion of. It kind of sounds like what Riff Raff sounds like now, but man, it is bad.
Do you know what that song was a response to?
Tell me.
Black Rob.
Black
Whoa.
Rob. Whoa.
You remember that song?
I don't.
Bro, we should have watched that before, but it's literally the Houston version of the New York's smash hit "Whoa" by Black Rob. And
Hmm.
and I didn't like it, guys. Why'd you have to do it? I oh my goodness, I did not
It
like it.
tries really hard to be hard. And that's something I don't think that Houston rappers should do. I don't think
Exactly.
Sauce Walka should try to be gangster. I think he should just stick to what he does, stick to your guns. And I think that's where the only song that I was like, damn, the album is strong. Like the way it starts is pretty strong. You got Bear Baby, you got Get Back, You got
Bar.
City of Syrup, you've got Choppas, you've got some good tracks in the first half of the album. Second half of the album, I feel like this dude was just so lean the fuck out that he was just unable to write songs that had any coherence to them. And you know what? You can tell. You can tell because, like, literally, the fucking lyrics of every single one of these songs is about one thing: goddamn codeine.
Yeah.
There is nothing else in the whole entire album that they're discussing besides cough syrup. I mean, the skits are about cough syrup. There's a skit on there. The first track is about how a mama's about to have a baby, and then the doctor comes in and says, "You about to have a bear baby, a
Bar.
bar baby, a bar baby," meaning it's a codeine baby, meaning that this goddamn baby's gonna be addicted to fucking codeine like heroin.
Goodness gracious. And you know, that's what Houston excels in, right? Like it's interesting that you mention it it's half of this album is kind of thug, and then they got a couple love joints in there, and then the rest of the album is fucking purpled out
Yeah,
and slow. And it's interesting how the West Coast music at the time was a lot more gangster than Houston music, but Texas is an open carry state, right?
right.
Like they actually have their guns on them publicly, but it's less gangster than actually I guess it is gangster to be forced to privately keep a gun on you. So shout out to West Coast on that one.
There
But
was something. There was something I once saw. I think it was a Vice documentary, and they were talking about how with codeine, with lean, right? Like
mm,
lean in Texas was not something you ever overdosed on. It was something that was recreational. It was like smoking weed. You'd have a blunt, and then you'd have a double cup. But I don't know, man. I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like everyone who touches that stuff eventually gets into the overdose, the clinical overdoses. And so when they say, lean wasn't that bad until it hit LA, lean wasn't that bad until it hit New Orleans or Atlanta or New York, I don't agree with that, man. If you look at the amount of people that have literally died because of lean on the screwed up click, you would see that Houston Houston definitely has a lean problem. And just by me hearing City of Syrup and how much it's being referenced, and they knew it was a problem. But you know what? That's their biggest contribution to rap today. Juice World, Fredo Santana, Lil Wayne
mm,
almost died. The
mm.
the the lean deaths are no joke, bro.
Yeah, I guess you could say Big Mo might have been the Wiz Khalifa lean, maybe.
Exactly. And you know what? I don't do you know how he died?
No, I don't.
You don't know how he died?
No, I didn't look that up.
So the
I didn't
way
even
he
know he
died
died.
was from a heart attack at
Mm,
33 years old that left
mm.
him in a coma. How do you die of a heart attack at 33 years old unless you have some cardiac problems? And by the way, what causes cardiovascular problems?
You know, that could be the case.
Purple stuff, purple
I
stuff.
mean, how did Big Pun
Well,
die?
I
I
mean that
mean,
dude literally
they
was like 800 pounds.
but they look like the same size
No,
on the
Big Mo is
on the cover.
nowhere. Big Mo's a good 500.
Oh
Big
my
Mo's a
god.
good 500. I know this because
Yeah.
I'm big, because I'm over 200. Big
And
Mo,
so,
there's a
you know
difference
that
between 500 and 800.
are you serious that Big Pun was 800 pounds?
I'm not fucking joking you. Let
Oh
me
my
tell you
gosh. I mean,
Big Pun's max weight. Big
that
Pun's
sounds
max
so
weight,
specific.
dude,
That that sounds like you
the
googled
dude
that.
averaged a good 661.
Damn. That's on a
And
good that's on a good
he
summer too.
couldn't lose weight. He literally had food addiction. Like the dude had food addiction.
Mm. Oh
Yeah.
man.
But they got better
God
food. They
bless
probably
the
got some
dead.
better food in Texas than where Big Pun's from. So, I mean,
Oh, they do.
they
Barbecue.
got some good Texas barbecue.
They got Mexican food down there too.
Mexican. Mexican.
Mexico. They right in the border of Mexico.
They are right. No, they're not right on the border, but they, you know what I mean.
No,
They're
no,
not on the border. You're from a border town. That's not border.
you already know what it is. Tijuana,
Yeah, yeah,
San Diego, San Diego.
exactly, exactamente. So, yeah, that's pretty
L-
much what we have
Look,
so
dude.
far. Go ahead, please tell me.
Can I get this? Can I get my rocks off right now,
Yeah,
man?
go for
I
it,
need to
man.
tell you this. I
Tell
need to
me,
convince you this if
tell
you
me,
don't already
tell
believe
me.
this. That there is a lot of parallels between West Coast music and Houston music. And I'm going to just assume, right, that Big Moe was kind of the standard for the rappers of the time in the Houston area. And so that was pretty much what most people were kind of sounding like.
Oh, Big Pokey.
Right, right. It seemed to me that there's still a lot of funk influence in the music and the sample choices.
Right. Agreed.
And and it's slower. It's so much it's about I don't know who's slower. I would assume Houston's slower than anything that really came out of Cali. But nothing but a G thing was kind of that kind of tempo, just 95 or so, 91 BPMs or something like that. Um, and so there's that slow, vibes, just cruising, and it's
The
because
car
there's so much
culture.
land to drive. You know what I mean? There's so much land in Cali to drive. There's just so much land in Texas to drive. You're just swinging. You know what I mean? So the music has got to be slow. It's got to be long. Um, and and the way that their song structure was very similar. The way, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people did this as well, but in the 90s, for a lot of West Coast music, they would take like the chorus of some funk song and just remix the words to make it just like gangster or something like that. You know what I mean? And so they did that on this album, right? They did that with I wonder if I right, whatever that song is. Who is that, man? That's fucking I forgot who that is, but it's that 80s song, right? And so, in Cali, they did that all the time. They replaced it with some gangster lyrics, gin and juice, you know what I mean? E40 did it with seasoned on doing a cover of the reasons. So there's something about maybe the way the land is that makes the music sound similar in that way. You know what I mean? And so that was something that was kind of interesting. I didn't realize actually how close I would even say Bay Area music is to Houston music. And if you listen, and I know you haven't, if you've listened to a lot of Mac Dre music of the 90s, it's pretty damn close the way the music sounds and the way the song structure is. And so I don't know. There could be something there, man. There's a weird reason why Texas and Cali got very similar inspirations, at least for this time.
Yo, man, I don't know what to say just because for one, comparing Bay Area to Texas, I always felt like the Bay Area, and I really don't want to talk about the Bay Area because that this is your fucking favorite thing in the world to talk about
Dude,
is I got five on it.
dude, they both are into cars this exact same way, talking about candy paint.
That's a
You know
different
what I
thing.
mean?
They're about modding cars in Texas. In Cali, it's about, it's about having the dream.
No, 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 that's LA.
Mm.
But in the Bay, you need a muscle car that got candy paint on it. So have a motherfucking Mustang with some kind of crazy green, sparkly green color on it. You know what I mean? Look like candy. Looks like a damn candied apple, right? And so same thing in Texas. It's talking about candy paint.
I'll say there's one
Switching
thing I do
lanes.
notice in Texas hip hop that is not apparent in Cali hip hop, and I heard it throughout this album, and I hear it in other Texas albums. Strings.
Right. Oh, did you think about Dr. Dre listening to this album? I thought
Never.
about Dre.
You think this? But the strings in Dr. Dre came out later. It didn't come out early.
No, it came out in 98. The 2001 album came out in
Well,
98.
yeah. Okay. You got a point. You got a point because this was released in 2000. But strings in general have always been something that I hear a lot in Houston.
Oh yeah, like fucking tipping on fofos.
Yeah, and
That
this
one,
album as
right?
well.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's another connection, man. This the
Another connection.
instrumentation is very close. So I'm saying that's never been acknowledged before, and I'm gonna say here, all right. If you even if you care about '90s LA music and '90s Houston music, just know we won in the same.
Exactly. There's only to me there's only 3 states that matter in America
For rap music or
in
like for
general.
other stuff, economics.
In general for culture.
Mm, talk to me.
California, Texas, and Florida.
Wow, you don't think New York is pushing
Not
any
as the
culture?
state, but as the city, it's the most important, but not as the state. Just like how look at Nevada, man. Like who the fuck gives a fuck about Nevada? You care about Vegas, right?
Right.
People care about the state of Texas more than they do. People identify as Texans before they have, before they identify as Austinites or Houstonites or San Antonio knows or Dallasians. And so that you got to really respect that about them. That they're really about their state and they rep it and they rep the flag hard. And yeah, that's
You
all.
think the opposite of a Californian is a Texan?
No, I think that the
Like,
opposite of a LA guy is a guy from Boston.
huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
the opposite of a San Franciscan is a Mississippian.
Then why would you say that? Why specifically Mississippi? I mean, I feel like it could be the
'Cause that's probably
opposite
the most
of
redneck state in all of the U.S.
right, right. And we're not about that in Cali.
We're not about that in most of Cali, but there are definitely parts of Cali, especially when you get to the middle, where you got just as much country fucking cowboys as you do out in Nevada and Montana,
I say Calabama.
Calibama.
Calibama. That sounds like a not famous rap dude from your hometown.
No, I would not agree with that. But that's my assessment of Big Mo City of Syrup. You got any last words on this? You got anything to say? Any more analyses?
No, that's pretty much it, man. The only thing is I do I do agree with your point you made earlier, man. I think we actually don't shout the South out enough in the same way. I
We
really
shout the
do
South
think
out plenty. You don't shout
we don't.
Texas.
Yes, we don't, and I wonder why.
Well, now
I
we
wonder why.
now we know why. Because Travis Scott moved to L.A.
Oh shit.
I know.
Okay, so fuck Texas, basically.
I don't know about that, but with that being said, if you guys are gonna listen to this album, do not just listen to Bar Baby, listen to Get Back, listen to City of Syrup, listen to Choppas, and
Oh
maybe
look.
Pandus. The
Look, all
rest,
right.
don't do it.
No, you're missing the love songs. You got some pretty good girl joints on here. I'll do it, and I wonder. Those are pretty good girl joints. I Kind of makes you reminisce high school days if you went to high school between
So basically,
2000
listen to
and
the whole
2006.
first half of the album except Man, and then skip the latter half. Is that
Yeah,
fair?
and that's our stamp.
I think that's our stance right there. So thank you very
Yeah.
much for tuning in. How about you end us off?
You know what it is, man. The Rap Geeks in this bitch. Playback appeal in this bitch, man. We really appreciate you if you're listening, if you're tuning in, if you like hip hop in the same way that we do. Come show us some love on the Instagram, on the YouTube, in the comments. Tell us what you think about this album. Tell us what other stuff you might want us to go ahead and talk about. So we fuck with the fans. Go show some love. Peace.
Peace out.
Playback. Playback. Playback.
H time.